Hey guys, this is Kyojin Anime, and in this video I just wanted to talk a little bit on my opinion of the current state of the anime industry and what's good and what's bad about the situation as I see it, of course. All my personal opinion. Now, I have been basically watching anime since the early 90s, and in that time I've seen the industry evolve and change quite a lot. And I mean, it's easy for any of you to see if you compare the anime from the 80s, for example, or the early 90s, like Sailor Moon, or I don't know, Tenchi, or the Wings of Honneamise, or something like that, to the really current ones, like Shin Nanatsu no Taizai, and I don't mean the original Nanatsu no Taizai, I mean the new Nanatsu no Taizai. And that series was a big disappointment for me, honestly, because I had expected something in the spirit of the original Nanatsu no Taizai, which was quite awesome. But instead, I mean, we got fan service to the power of 7. I mean, come on. Seriously, what's the point? I mean, if you just stuff the series so full of fan services, basically goes out of the ears, and just make it a hentai. I mean, what's the idea? But yeah, I mean, Queen's Blade basically had I don't know how many seasons, so this kind of stuff also seems popular, and this is probably my central problem with what the anime industry is doing, and it's basically they focus on short-term profit, they focus on stuff that will make money for sure, and so they cater to the fan groups and to the really simple instincts of the main fan base, which is male otaku mostly for now. And just basically this means they just make fan service stuff, and they just make some really strange emoto stuff for the guys who have an emoto fetish or something. I don't know. This is kind of tiring to watch. I mean, I don't usually even watch it. I won't be watching this new Nanatsu no Taizai series because it has no plot, it has no anything. It just has fan service. Another thing that's kind of symptomatic is the large number of sequels and spin-offs of popular games or something like that. I mean, in this season we have a sequel to Shingeki no Kyojin, we have a sequel to Saenai Heroine no Sodatekata, we have a sequel to Shingeki no Bahamut, we have a sequel to Naruto, we have, I mean, so many sequels. Some things are direct implementations of games. I mean, for example, last season we had Tales of Zestiria, which is again a direct port of the game into the anime, and this season we have Granblue Fantasy, which is again a direct port of the game. I mean, this can work in some cases. Anime implementations or anime versions of games are pretty good, but it's not very common, and most of the time when a game is directly translated into an anime, it's kind of drawn out, very long, and it just doesn't have the same dynamic feeling that you have when you're playing the game. I mean, Tales of Zestiria, I got that feeling from it, that just kind of dragged on, and you had some kind of little useless events and some little useless side characters which really played no significant role after that. And I mean, it's common for an RPG. In an RPG, when you're playing it, you get all these kind of little things, and they make up the game, the core of the game. But in an anime, you kind of expect, I don't know, a more catchy story or something. But I think the reason for this is that there are not enough original, new, high quality stories. I see this pretty much all over and over. Or the studios are too afraid to invest into some kind of original manga and just risk it. They just prefer to, recycle the the stuff that they know has sold, I don't know, 5,000 copies. And just so you know the numbers, I mean, for the studios, mostly the profit of an anime series is determined by the number of Blu-rays or DVDs or DVD sets that they sell. And a number of something like 10,000 would be a pretty big success usually. Of course, a super hit like, I don't know, Naruto, One Piece, Bleach or whatever, those go far beyond, but that is not the normal case. I mean, you have maybe a couple of such anime in a decade, and the rest of the stuff, it just usually just kind of quickly disappears, and the total number of lifetime sold DVDs or Blu-rays is often just a few thousand. And the problem is that the studios kind of have to finance the series with that. And ultimately the problem with this is also that the prices for the Blu-rays and DVDs in Japan are crazy. I've been there lots of times, and the prices, they don't go down, they go up more or less. I mean, recently I've seen prices like almost $1,000 for a Blu-ray set, or $500 to $700 for a DVD set. I mean, who can afford that? Seriously. I mean, okay, some of the really hardcore Japanese otaku, they can. Or they can't, but they don't eat, they buy the DVD sets, and they really do that. They're crazy. Honestly, they're crazy. I mean, who am I to speak? I mean, I've got lots of this stuff too, but I'm not that crazy, and you have to just keep it in relation. And the problem is with many of the hardcore otaku is that they have no limits. They just buy this stuff like no tomorrow, and almost ignore the prices. And there are some nasty tricks that the studios actually play to get the otaku to buy the stuff. So for example, if you want to go to a Seiyu event, they make it a limited event, and the guys who have bought the Blu-ray set, for example, they get priority on the tickets. And they don't get the tickets free, but they get priority right to buy them. And if you haven't bought the Blu-ray set, then typically all the tickets will be sold out to this particular event, and you can't get in there. I mean, I was in such a situation once. I wanted to go to a Tamore Yukari concert, and it was sold out, and I was kind of naive. It was a long time ago, 10 years ago, and I was expecting that, yeah, maybe if I hang around I'll be able to buy a ticket. So yeah, I kind of was hanging around there for an hour, asked a ton of people, wasn't able to buy a ticket. I mean, if it's sold out, it's sold out of luck. And well, you can still buy a ticket on some kind of online eBay-like sites, but they typically jack up the price by a factor of 3 or more. And considering that the tickets for these limited Seiyu events are often not cheap at all, something like 8,000 to 9,000 yen, so maybe $80, $90, $100, that's a regular price. The prices on the ticket sites or auction sites, they can go up to 200, 300 and more. So it's pretty serious. But anyway, I kind of digressed a little bit. One more point, which is kind of slightly worrying tendency for me, is the fact that most industries tend to outsource nowadays. They don't hire Japanese animators anymore or that much, and they outsource to Vietnam, Korea, Thailand or China. It's not bad. I mean, globalization, everybody's outsourcing everything. I'm outsourcing too, so how am I to say? But oftentimes this leads to poor quality. because essentially they're saving money. They're paying the animators like 1/3 or 1/4 of what the Japanese animators make, and the Japanese animators don't make a lot of money. I mean, the Japanese animators are really far from rich, and that's a real understatement. I mean, you can be a super high-class animator, drawing stuff that just basically directly goes into Naruto the movie or whatever, and you'll basically be paid something like $30 a day or $40 a day. It's not an hour, it's a day. And yeah, that's hard. That's very tough. So, well, anime is expensive. That's a problem. It's not really it's not really out of bad will, though. Well, to an extent, maybe it is capitalism and whatever. But the problem is that anime production is very expensive. It's not just you go out with a camera and film some stuff. You need to draw every single frame. It's a ton of effort. You need to repeat it if something is wrong. And yeah, so yeah, and one more kind of side effect of this situation is that the studios oftentimes accept projects which are really just disguised commercials. So they're sponsored from outside, either from the government through some kind of channels, or from some corporation or company, or I mean, lots of those bicycle anime recently. I don't have hard evidence, but I'm 95% sure they were sponsored by bike companies, because you see, you know, like in anime, usually the brands of all the stuff, they're just slightly obscured. So, for example, if it was Panasonic, it's something like Panaphonics, as Homer Simpson used to say. It's because you can't just go and use people's brand names without permission. And if you really see the actual brand name exactly in the real life form, and especially if it's done in a very high quality way, such as in Yowamushi Pedal or Kamakura no Jitenshabu, you kind of know that there is permission in the background, and most likely there is actually money in the background. So these companies, they're sponsoring the anime in all likelihood, and in many cases it's basically probably some region of Japan, some prefecture or whatever, basically hiring them to make an advert for the prefecture. So stuff like maybe Sakura Quest or Locodol. I think there's definitely some financing going on in the background, though again I'm not sure. I don't have hard evidence on that. Another kind of anime which is obviously heavily sponsored is a lot of the military ones. So stuff like Gate, for example. This was just one really long commercial for the Japanese self-defense forces. It's not necessarily bad. I mean, the anime that resulted from that are actually, in many cases, good ones. I mean, something like, I enjoyed Gate. Gate was pretty fun. I mean, the idea itself of basically having a really modern day army on the one hand, and some kind of fantasy world with dragons and bows and spears on the other hand, was kind of amusing in a way. But yeah, I found it kind of too much of an advert for the Japanese army. Even if they don't call it an army, it's an army. I mean, if you call it self-defense forces, it doesn't become some kind of neighborhood patrol with sticks. If you have aircraft carriers like the Hyuga and whatever, then you have aircraft carriers. So yeah, that's a navy, that's an army, so then call it that. But anyway, again, I digress. So I think that's basically it, what I kind of see in terms of problems of the anime industry right now. If you think something different, feel free to let me know your opinions in the comments. And I think I'll just do another video on the good points of anime and why I actually like anime to this extent, because this is also a very kind of a long argument and with lots of points, so I need to keep it short. Anyhow, thanks for watching. See you next time. If you liked it, please subscribe. Arigatou gozaimasu. Mata ne.